All right, everybody, it's the Jerry Metcalf podcast. Today we have Hank Seitz, better known as Dr. Hank. He is a renowned business coach his business is Agent Wealth, and he coaches a lot of real estate agents from agents new in the business to agents doing over 100 million a year. Dr. Hank, thank you for being on the show. Good to have
Hey,
you.
thank you, Jared. Great to have you. You're looking beautiful. I love your place there. Great background, and looking forward
Thank
to having a
you.
fun time today.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the real estate business and into coaching. Just give us a quick little bio of you.
Sure. That probably let's start with my education and I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and that's where this accent of mine comes. And my undergraduate degree is in business. My master's is in human behavior, and then my PhD is in mental science. So I'm a head doctor, and I help teach people to be, do, and have more of what they want, and to think more about what they want versus what they don't want. And then I was initially in Procter and Gamble. And Procter and Gamble had me on the fast track for about 15 years. So they were grooming me for upper management. I managed Southeast United States and a billion-dollar company. And I created a process that actually could increase the business and help people in their personal lives. And so Procter said, "Man, you know, have blown it up here in the Southeast. We want you to do this internationally." And I said, "No, we'll see you later." Became a consultant, and Procter and Gamble was my first client. And from
Awesome.
there, yeah, and from there I did other major companies, Chase, and was on the board of advisors, John Deere, et cetera. But about 20 years ago, I had an opportunity to buy a mortgage company. And so I did, and that's really what got me into real estate. And I just love real estate and the American dream, and I love all of us to increase our dream machine, if you will. And so it's just a great way to get in. 10 years ago, I was able to buy into a real estate company. And so I took that real estate company from about 150 agents to 420 agents in the state of Texas. And so in the last 20 years, I basically have helped real estate professionals, the last 10 years, mainly real estate agents and brokers, to grow their business as well as grow their wealth.
Wow. So you took a company, you said, from 150 to 400 agents?
Yes.
Wow. Now, what company was that?
It's called Ultima Real Estate. And so we had we were headquartered in Dallas, and then had a major presence in every major market in Texas.
Wow, that's impressive. So tell us, in working with so many agents and making agents successful and growing businesses from 150 to 400 agents in a short amount of time, what have you found in our industry gives real estate agents an edge or makes them competitive, or the top agents? What makes a top agent a top agent? What would you say is
Yeah.
maybe the common denominator?
You bet. And it's a great question, Jared, because, you know, we're always looking for what's that secret sauce? What's that something that, you know, is so special? And I have a national podcast that I put on weekly called Agent Wealth Network, and which helps agents and brokers increase their business and wealth. And in there, everybody that I interview, and top people throughout the United States and Canada, that just about everyone says one thing during that interview, and they say it's all about your mindset. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
really about how you think. And that most of us have been brought up to think about what we don't want. And then many of us don't have very high self-esteem, that we don't have the confidence. And so what I do is I help people to think differently so they can realize that they are magnificent. Each one of us are magnificent creators, and we can create it the way we want it.
Awesome. So basically the common denominator of all agents that are successful is really just their mindset. Sounds like
Yeah,
mindset, confidence, and it's a difference of you can focus on what you want or you don't want, but whichever
yeah,
one you focus on, you're going to get more of it.
yeah.
Um, what are some things that you do to help people change their mindset and change the way they think?
Yeah, you bet. In fact, I'd love to offer this to your listeners that, first of all, I have a time-proven process that is 5 sessions. And during those 5 sessions, I actually change the way that people think. But the most impressive or most effective method that I use is what's called a joy shop. And
Mm-hmm.
so if anybody would like to have that, then I'll give it away for free. But it's in the morning to start out your day. So you're most refreshed, you're most positive, if you will, when you just wake up. And to be able to read this joy shop, it's a joy shop you read, and then you write down 3 things. And you basically write down what you want and so what you desire. And as you get clearer and clearer every morning as you do this, that you'll start discovering the things that really make your heart sing and the things that you really do desire. The second
Mm-hmm.
thing is to, and this changes the mindset completely, is to be in a state of appreciation. And so initially the first few days you can appreciate like everything that happened in your life. You were born, you had parents
Right.
and whatever those things are. But then to get down to, in the last 24 hours, what do I appreciate? And Jerry, so many people are used to, they get back from work or whatever, and how was your day? And the answer is, oh, this was a problem, and this was tough, and that was tough. And so what you do is you start re-engineering your thought process so that you can start thinking about the things that you do want, because
Mm-hmm.
whatever you focus your attention on grows. And so by focus my attention, so for example, real estate agents, they have a deal that goes south. And how many of us have had that deal go south and then we say, oh, I don't like that. And I tell my family about it. I post it on Facebook, et cetera. And the more that
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about it, the more that I'm going to attract cooperative components, similar things of more bad deals. Not only bad deals, but then, bad people, if you will, unwanted, unfriendly, whatever people. And so what you want to do is just look at the things that you don't want and say, that's what I don't want. And then ask, what do I want? And you'll start birthing new ideas that'll create a better life for you and me.
So 5 things. Number 1, you write down 3 things you want. Number 2, gratitude. And number 3,
Yes. And number 3 is you pre-pave your day the way you want it. And so what does that mean? That means like, and you want to be general on this. You don't want to get real specific, but something like, hey, I'm going to have a wonderful day, that I'm going to meet harmonious and uplifting people that help me to
mm-hmm.
my desires, that I'm going to attract healthy and nutritious and delicious food. That I'm going to laugh more today. I'm going to smile more today. And as you start saying those things to yourself, what you're going to do is you're going to start pre-paving your day to include, I'm going to have my travels are going to be fun and safe. And so as you start doing this, you start creating again the life of your dreams, the things that you want.
Great. So what are number 4 and number 5?
Pardon me?
What's number 4 and number 5?
No, there's just 3 things that
Uh,
you state that you write down, and so those are the 3 things that you. So it's
Okay.
the joy shop, and you do it the first thing every morning, and typically
Okay.
it takes about 10 minutes to do. And so you do those 3 things, and every morning if you do it, and it's just 10 minutes out of your day, and it really is the most important 10 minutes you can have in your day because it starts setting you up to have a great day.
Right. It's kind of like a meditation practice, but it's so you write down 3 things. Number 1, what you want. Number 2, gratitude. Number 3, prepare your day, what you're going to do
Yeah.
more of today.
Yeah, and so I would replace that word gratitude with appreciation. It's a higher vibrational word. And so it's appreciate. Gratitude kind of sounds like somebody else did something for me, where
Right.
appreciation is I co-created this. Me and the universe, me and my soul, whatever you
Right.
want to say.
Okay. Kind of like, do you know who David Hawkins is?
No.
Well, he wrote Power versus Force, and he talks about
Uh,
things like that. It's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah.
Um, what do you think is, what do you think when you came, because you've also been a real estate agent, what is something that you knew coming into this business that you wish you knew then that you know now?
Well, I think both myself as well as others, because remember, I help from people that are just starting to people that are wanting to build, $100 million teams. And so I see it all. And the one thing that I had, and I think the one thing that most of the agents have, is they thought that this was going to be pretty easy.
Right.
And it can be easy. However, that to think that, I mean, I hear a lot of vendors and business partners of ours that aren't real estate agents, and they call us lazy. Okay, and so it's one of those things where people say, oh, and that doesn't feel good at all. And so it is to be able to do inspired action. And so again, you do have to focus your attention on this in order to be successful and to leverage. And there's a lot of leverage in, especially like systems, and to leverage systems in order to help you to become more effective.
So wish you knew how hard it was and you wish you put in systems? Is that the answer?
Yeah, that's part of it, and that this idea about inspired action, and you get inspired action through your thought. 99% of everything we create is through our thought first, and then the 1% of inspired action. Most of our action isn't inspired, and so we're just kind of doing things. And so the more you do things, you end up getting do. And all of us have had that in our life where we say, oh man, I'm just exhausted out of this. And so you want to make sure that it's inspired stuff. So for example, you don't want to say, okay, I'm going to go make 100 cold calls today. That, just the word cold calls doesn't sound good. You probably don't feel good about that. And so you want to start looking at, hey, what is inspired? And so it might be initially starting out with just referrals before systems that, I want referrals and the people that I know, and I want this to be easy and fun. And so you need to really talk to yourself and help yourself to make it easy and fun, because I find a lot of agents are burnt out, are upset, and their life goes like this. Right, up and down. They got the closing, and they don't have, and that's with money, with stress, everything's going up and down. And so this way, this whole process that I'm sharing with you, this system, helps you to have a life that is going more up than down.
So you talk about you had a PhD in, is it mental science?
Yes, mental science.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Sure. So it is not the physiology, if you will, of the brain. That what this is the mind. And so this is our thinking. Like, for example, you can't see thoughts, right? That, where do those thoughts come from? And so it basically is the power of our thinking, and to understand on how powerful Think, Feel, and Grow Rich, for example, from Napoleon Hill. That's a great book too. I actually wrote a book, co-authored with him, because I had some public material of his where I had it Think, Feel, and Grow Rich. And so it's really about our feelings that come from our thought. And so for us to really be focused on what is that thought, because our thoughts are the seeds. So it's kind of like planting seeds, and we're farmers, if you will, that you want, what kind of seeds are you planting? And our prayer is our everyday thought. So it's not just if we're on our hands and knees and our hands folded, that our prayer is our everyday thought, and our prayer has power. And so one of the things that I did in my PhD was looked at 2 different wings of a cancer center. And for one wing, we actually, as a group, prayed for the good health of that, and basically thought of good health for that wing. And the other wing we didn't pay any attention to, and neither wings knew that we were doing this.
Wow.
And statistically, and they both had the same symptoms, and everything. Both, wings had cancer.
Yeah.
And statistically, there was an improvement in the health of those people that were being thought of, being prayed for. And so it's very powerful, our thoughts. In fact, all of science has now concluded, and so this is scientists, this is microbiologists, this is quantum physicists, they've all agreed within about the last 5 years on how creation, how our experience is created. And it's 3 steps, according to the scientists. And the first step is our thought. And then our thought is the second step, leads to emotions, which they call the energy. And then the third step is that those thoughts that created emotions, energy, create matter, matter. So it's those three steps of, in essence, creation. And that everybody now, all the scientists agree that. And so it starts with our all-powerful thoughts. And that's why for each one of us to understand, we have the power to be able to improve our lives, to change our lives, to have a happy life, to have it easy every day, and to have our dreams come true. And it's all based on our thought. It has nothing to do with the outside circumstances of what's going on, who's president, or, what city you're in, how the economy is. Nothing. It has all to do, it's all the kingdom within you and how you're thinking about you and your life and what you desire.
So you talk about, you help people become surrounded by uplifting and supportive, happy people. So what are some thoughts on that? Because I think we all know it's important that you are the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right.
So while we like to be kind and help, we all need to help others. I think we get more of helping others. What we think is helping others, we get more help from than actions in helping ourselves. But what do you think, as it relates to real estate? Because I think the more well-rounded a human being are, the more it's amazing how successful you become.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But bringing that back into being surrounded by uplifting and supportive, happy people.
Yeah.
What is your advice on doing that? And what is because obviously, there's an importance of that. Give us some insight on both of those.
Absolutely. And so here is, so instead of just doing happy people and, and all that Dr. Hank, like some people go, Dr. Hank, you're in that la la land, get out of there. So let's get real practical. And here's the practical way that actually plays out every time if you will do that. So for example, that we have been taught, so it's done unto us according to our beliefs, typically of beliefs that don't support us and don't help us. And so one of the beliefs that we have is that you can't change other people. And that's just not true at all. I change people all the time. And so any person and anything in this world, but we're just going to take a look at a client now in real estate, that client has the ability to be really kind or really not, to be really supportive or not, to listen to you or not. So it's about you asking. I had an agent a few weeks ago. I had an agent, and she called me and she said, look, this is just the worst. This one client of mine that they've been dragging me on for weeks now, and they don't make a decision, and they're not very nice. They don't listen to what I counsel them on, and it's really just awful, and I just don't know what to do. I'm fed up. And I said, well, you've been talking to me about everything what you don't want. And they kind of stopped and they realized, and they thought, wow, I am. But they said, but it's reality. And I always get a kick out of that because, see, I never face reality. Instead, I create reality, because whatever this is right now, whatever we're experiencing is previous thought that is now manifested into form, into things that we can see physically, et cetera. And so I counseled this agent, and I said, okay, so I want you to really start thinking about, how do you want this person to be? Wow, I want them to make a quick decision. I want them and us to get along really well. And I said, now there you go. You want to feel good with each other. You want to, because everything's about the feeling. People buy from you because they feel good about you. And so thinking about on how I want this person to be, that they are motivated now. So I want to attract motivated. I would have all the agents, brokers to write this down, that I now attract into my life, into my experience, motivated buyers that make quick decisions, buyers that I get along with, that I'm harmonious with, that listen to me, that take my counsel, that are fun to be with. And that the more that you start thinking about that versus thinking about what you don't want, people you don't want, the more you're going to start seeing that you're going to attract those type of people. So the best thing to do, so you can actually change, the end of that story, by the way, was that lady started really thinking about how she would like to see that client. On Thursday night, that client called about 2 days afterwards that we talked and said, hey, I'd like to look at a house on Saturday. And on Saturday, they did a contract. And like, it just blew her away. And she goes, oh my gosh, you can really change people. You really can have it the way that you want it. And we have all the power in order to do that.
That's awesome. So I'm going to read through some of the topics you're known for and touch just for a minute on each one of them.
Sure.
One thing you like to talk about is how to create $1 million business, real estate or otherwise.
Yes.
Give us in a nutshell what you mean, like what the how-to is.
Yeah. So it's first of all having an abundant mindset. And so if you don't think, oh, there's enough houses, enough listings. I mean, there were thousands of listings in, for example, my market that I'm in DFW,
Right.
and so there's plenty of everything, but you have to start thinking it. You can't buy into the news. Just turn off the news. They search the world for something bad, and I can guarantee you, in this world is everything unwanted and everything wanted. So why not focus your attention more on the things that you want? So it's really $1 million.
I haven't watched the news in a decade. I don't know when famous people die until I go to a closing and they talk about it. I won't do it. Technologies and business models to create an empire in real estate. So tell us a little bit about the technologies and business models.
You bet. So there are technologies out there. For example, there are CRMs, customer relationship management models, that are using artificial intelligence. And so they can actually, when the lead comes in, automatically they can be sent a text, can be sent an email, can start communicating with the client before you even know you have the lead.
Right.
You might be sleeping at the time. And so those are some of the type of technologies, but there's all kinds of resources, and they're actually on my podcast that I have on different resources where, for example, in your county, you can get resources on exactly how appreciation is expected to be on the homes. And so it takes the agent to the next level. So instead of just being a salesperson, that you really become an advisor, and then to start leveraging your time. And so this is another thing that people, normally agents start out or are at a point that when they're beginning or they're floundering, that they go, well, I'd have an assistant, but I don't have enough money for an assistant. Well, when you say you don't have enough money, you're going to start attracting more not enough money. And an assistant you can get for, have them do just an hour of work for you a week, right? So it might cost you $10. But the fact is that you could start attracting and building a team. And because you're not going to be able to do $100 million by yourself, you're going to need a team, whether it's assistant people, whether it be buyers, agents, et cetera, but just one step at a time. So for all of you that listen, no matter where you are, that just think about what's the next step in order to grow my business, to be able to serve more people, to be able to earn more money. And that next step, when you ask that, you'll all of a sudden start getting that energy that turns into a thought of some miraculous thoughts that will lead you into inspired actions that will give you the things that you want.
And tell us about understanding yourself and others.
Yeah.
And why is that important?
Pardon me, you like that?
And why is that important?
And why is that important? Yeah,
tell us how to do it first.
Yeah, you bet. So again, if you contact me, you can get this information on that. I'll provide it for free. It's part of my process, my 5-step proven process and 5-week sessions that I use. But understanding yourself and others. So first of all, for us to understand that there's different behavior styles of everybody, and we're a mix of these different behavior styles. And the one that I like that's easiest to really comprehend is the DISC profile. It's the driver, influencer, steady, conscientious. And and most people are aware of that. If you're not, I think Tony Robbins even gives it away free. I have it available for you. And so that's one way to first understand yourself, and by taking the assessment, to really understand who you are, and then to better understand who other people are. Now, that's just like the outside edge of the onion, if you will. To peel back the onion, I have something that virtually no one else is aware of, they don't teach, and that is that there are motivations. There's 6 motivations of mankind. And when you can identify what motivates a person, you can identify how to speak their language. So with the disbehaviors, that's the behaviors and how you, probably the most common way of looking at that is to mirror those behaviors in the DISC. But in understanding the motivations of mankind, the 6 motivations, then what you can do, and I'll give you an example that if you're talking to a person, they're high utilitarian, which is one of the motivations, they want a high return on investment. So in real estate, you're a responsible agent, you want to help this person, and this person says, hey, I want the biggest house there in this community and on the block. And you say, oh no, don't do that, you're not going to get, a very good return on investment.
Right.
And they'll say, hey, you're right. However, if they're individualistic, which means wanting power, wanting to be number one, wanting to be the best, that if you're not speaking their language and trying to talk them out of what they want, that you will talk them not only out of what they want, but you'll also talk them out of being a client of yours. And so some people, the big house on top of the hill that they won't get a return on investment is actually, for some people, the thing that they want. And so who are we to, identify other people's preferences? And so you want to do what the customer is. So that really peels back the onion. And then the final thing is there's 67 talents of mankind. And I have the ability to measure to the 10th of a point every one of those talents. So you can take a look at what your talents are, and the high talents you want to leverage, and the lower talents you just want to be aware of you're not very good, because I can help you increase those lower talents a little, but on your higher talents, I can take you to the moon.
Wow, exactly. Focus on what you're good at.
Yeah.
And leverage out the rest.
Right.
So emotional intelligence, tell us a little bit about what that means.
Yeah, so EQ, it's typically emotional intelligence is EQ. And so all of us have heard about IQ, and that's the intelligent quotient. And that I could tell all of us right now listening to this here today, and most of the people have a high enough IQ to make it and to make it big. Okay, you can do anything that you want. However, it has been proven, and this came out in about the 90s, that it has been proven that like more people get promoted or more people get fired, more people are more successful based on their EQ and emotional intelligence. So it's really about connecting with these emotions. See, these emotions are so powerful. Remember, I shared with you that scientists have all agreed that it goes from thought to your emotion, and then that emotion, it creates the matter, creates your experience. Well, that our feelings, especially like men in our society, have been told, oh, don't cry, don't pay attention to your feelings, just use your head, your analytical mind. And really that's the poison, because the pathway to everything that you want, you're being guided, and we're being guided every moment of every day based on our feelings. When you feel bad, it means you're not thinking about this properly, you're not on your lighted path. When you feel good, it means you are thinking about this properly and you're on your lighted path. So emotions are the key to really everything. And that's why my book,
So here's what we're going to wrap this up with. Last but not least.
Sure.
Tell us the 5 steps to realizing your dreams.
The fast track to realizing your dreams?
No, the 5 steps. You've got 5 steps to realizing your dreams. What are they?
Oh, 5 steps to realize your dreams. So remember I shared with you the 3 steps on what scientists have? Well, what the scientists forgot was, Jerry, is they forgot about that there's this higher essence within all of us, that there's our soul, or some people want to say God, or our source, or universe. And so they left that out. And because I can't explain it, it's unexplainable. But here's the 5 steps to your happiness. And so everything starts out with your thought. And let me talk a little about that first step, because it's the most important step of all, because it starts everything going. So it is the contrast in our life. So the things we don't like, the things that, the bad deal, the argument, whatever, the pain that we might have, whatever that is, that those things that we don't want, and so most people would probably call it the good stuff, the bad stuff, and what we don't want, that is really the blessing for all of us, because it helps us to determine what we do want. And so what most of us have done is we have just charged up and energized the things we don't want, and then our life gets worse and worse. An example of that, have any of you listeners out there had a day where you say, it just can't get any worse than this, and then it does?
Right.
And so why is that? Well, that's the law of attraction. That's this powerful way that we can take the energy that creates worlds, and with our mind, we can mold it into the energy that creates our dreams coming true. So so instead of getting and embracing all those things you don't want, you just bless them. And you say, I'm so happy for that argument, that deal going south, whatever. And then ask, what does it want? And now your thoughts will start being guided to a better life, to more of the preferences that you prefer. And when you thrive, everybody else around you thrives. You being poor doesn't help the poor, if you will, and you being rich, though, that you become, the example. So that's step one. Step two is that those thoughts go into the emotion, and it literally is sending a signal out. And so whatever that signal is, so if you're feeling good, if you're feeling playful and having fun, and your heart is just singing over these desires of having an abundant, happy, and a long and wealthy life, that as you do that it sends the signal. Step two is the emotions, and it sends the signal, and that signal is sent to the universe, if you will, to these divine energies that are there for us to be able to call forth. And so as we do, so that's step three, is that it is received, this energy is received, and your prayers are answered, every one of them, immediately. The challenge is most people say, hey, my prayers haven't been answered, that, I don't have the stuff that I want. And it's because of step four, and where I help people the most in their thinking, but then I help them in step four. And what we need to do is we need to believe it, we need to allow it, and we need to expect it. And I actually call it ABE, allow, believe, and expect. And so when you say, hey, I expect to grow my real estate business, and you believe that, and then that will open it up, that will aid you, if you will, allow, believe, expect, to be able to go to step is which is your experience and your dreams coming true. And that is it, in a nutshell, is how life plays.
So your thoughts, your emotions, and then number three would be your willingness to receive it?
Number three is that the universe receives that signal and then responds back, that, or God, or, whatever word, your soul, whatever word you want to do, that receives that. So that's why your prayers are always answered, because God receives that. And the issue is there is no judgment. And so it's whatever you're thinking, that energy is being sent out, and you'll get cooperative energy back to make it bigger. And that's why you want to be careful on, hey, how do I think? But even more so importantly, how do I feel? Because if you feel good, you're on your path.
Right. Well, you can do a lot of things with electricity or energy, good and bad.
You bet. Yeah.
So tell us so you wrote a book called, what is the name of your book? The Happiest Man in the World?
Yeah, I have 10 books. And so one of them is The Happiest Man in the World. And did you have a question about that one?
Well, tell us how you wrote 10 books.
Yeah, so I realized that I was being blessed and graced with information that could be helpful to the world, and that on how life plays, to have a happy life. I can have a happy life. I can be happy no matter what the circumstance is, and because I have raised myself above that. So some people say, Dr. Hank, you're in La La Land and your head's in the clouds, but my feet are grounded in the Mother Earth. And so it basically was, I'm going to just start easy. And this is a counsel on everything that you do. You want to build your real estate business, do it this way, just like doing books. What I said is, I'm going to wake up a little bit earlier this morning and I'm going to write just for maybe 10 minutes. And so I would sit down and I would start writing for 10 minutes. Sometimes that 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. But the discipline of me waking up every morning and starting to write, that's how all of a sudden I was done with one book. And one year, I think it was 3 years ago, I wrote 3 books and I was doing all these other fun, things, traveling the world and whatever. And I realized, oh my gosh, I had written 3 books. And so it just comes to you. And so you'll see that when you ask, you start receiving. And I'll give you an example. One is called Conversations with Joseph. And a real interesting way on how all this started. And I like to do everything, and I ask for everything easy and fun. So out of the blue, I get a call from a PR, public relations guy, and he goes, Dr. Hank, listen, you don't know me, but I know you have a big list, and I'd like to help my client to be able to get in your list and invite people to his services. And I said, well, sure. What kind of services are those? And he said, well, I have this medical doctor, and this medical doctor wants to teach people how to meditate. And I said, how to meditate? Wow, that's pretty interesting. I love that. So I said, I'd like to meet this doctor. Well, this doctor is 92 years old, and he was born in India. And he comes shuffling in, and he's got his belt way above his belly button, and he shuffles in, and we have the most glorious 2 hours talk. It was just an amazing, amazing time. And so I said, sure, you can use my list. And, so with that went on. But this PR guy got back to me, and he goes, I've been reading up on you, Dr. Hank. And he said, you know how life works. And I said, well, I actually know how life plays and how to make it play better for you. And he goes, well, I have some real questions. So he was 43 years old, and he just, he didn't have very good relationships. His business wasn't doing very well, didn't have a lot of money, all this stuff. And he started asking me these questions, and I started channeling the answers. And I said, you have such amazing questions. Excuse me. That I'd like to just record this, and if we could, I don't want you to prepare anything. It's just 1 hour every week. So 1 hour every week, he would call me. He'd ask me questions. I would channel answers, and then I got that transcribed. And next thing you know, after about 2-3 months, then we had a book. And so now it's Conversations with God for everybody if they're middle age and they're wondering how do I get out of this and how do I have a better life? There's a great book for people that are in that situation.
What's the name of the book?
That one is Conversations with Joseph. And by the way, the PR guy's name really isn't Joseph at all. That just came to us either. We didn't know the name.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. That's awesome. So what is the one? So we've got your book, and then we've got your book, Happiest Man in the World, is your autobiography. But in addition to that, what is the one book that you've read that someone else wrote that you would recommend?
Yeah, well, just recently, one book that I just love is it's called Mr. Schmooze, and it's Schmooze by Richard Abraham. And it's a great, quick little book to read. It'll take you, I don't know, an hour or whatever to, sit down to read it. But what it is, it's about this guy, and he's a schmoozer, if you will. But what he does is he makes people feel good. And because of that, he's the most connected and successful man, and everybody loves him. When he walks into the room, everybody brightens up. And so we can all be a Mr. Schmooze. And again, the Schmooze is just kind of a cute name, an attention getter. But it's really that we can all be kind to each other. We can all have more fun with each other. And all of us can walk into a room and light it up. And Mr. Schmooze can kind of help you do that. It's a great, fun little book. Yeah.
So tell us, we've got one more question for you before we close this out. If there's one thing that you want our listeners to get out of this interview, what would that be?
Well, I'd really like you to care most about how you feel. That when you care most about how you feel, that you'll start seeing that it'll start leading you to a better life. Because all of us, no matter how successful, no matter how much money, it doesn't matter. We all want something more. We want to be, do, and have more. And the easiest path, have it easy, have it fun, and have it with your good feelings, because your good feelings are your guide. And when you're not having good feelings with the thought or subject that you have, then try to pivot away from that and pivot to a better feeling thought about that. So, for example, if you had a fight with your spouse this morning, that you might say, that was good because I really appreciate him or her on just, on how they do express themselves, and they are, trying to share with me on who they are. And I'm going to be really open for that. So you just try to get that to where you feel better about every circumstance that happens. Now, if you have a subject, though, that you just can't get off your mind and it's bothering you, it's one of those things you wake up in the middle of the night and you just can't get it out of your head, and you're mad about it or upset about it or fearful about it. Fear is false evidence appearing real, because most things we fear never even happen to us, and it's all made up in our head. Everything is made up. And so if you're on that subject and you just can't get off it, then go meditate, go take a walk in the park, go take a nap, go have sex, do something that will help you to get off that subject, because the more you can be thinking about good feeling thoughts, the more cooperative components are going to come. They're going to rally around you and all the things that make you feel happy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Hank, for being on the show. We appreciate you coming. Being on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And if any of your listeners want to, you can go to dochankwebinar.com for more information on me, or, just look me up. I'm at drhank at drhank.biz, and be happy to help anybody. If you want to become your greatest possibility, be happy to do that. And Jerry, thank you so much for being on.
All right, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.